Why nice people repel us. Marcus Aurelius once said, "Very little is needed to make a happy life. It is all within yourself, in your way of thinking." As we dive into today's topic on why nice people repel us here at Stoic in Your Life, let's ponder on that wisdom. Why do we sometimes find genuine kindness so unsettling? Could it be that our past experiences and defenses, built up over time, are keeping us from embracing the warmth that life has to offer? This video is not just about exploring these psychological intricacies, it's about challenging ourselves to grow. How have your own experiences shaped your reaction to kindness? Have you ever found yourself repelled by someone's genuine warmth? Let's unravel these mysteries together and see if we can't just find a way to let a little more light into our hearts. Have you ever found yourself inexplicably repelled by someone excessively nice on a first date? You're not alone. This counterintuitive reaction to niceness can perplex even the most seasoned daters, transforming a potentially promising encounter into a psychologically uncomfortable ordeal. But why do we often find genuine kindness so hard to stomach? Why does a warm, affable demeanor sometimes leave us wanting to flee the scene? The reasons, rooted deep in our psychological makeup and past experiences, are worth exploring for anyone trying to understand the complexities of human relationships. At first glance, the aversion to someone nice may seem paradoxical. After all, societal norms and dating advice columns continually preach the virtues of kindness and warmth. Yet for some, the presence of a thoroughly nice person can trigger a visceral urge to escape. This reaction might stem from deeply ingrained defensive mechanisms shaped by past disappointments in love and intimacy. Marcus Aurelius once remarked, "Reject your sense of injury and the injury itself disappears." However, for those of us who have fortified ourselves against repeated emotional injuries, the path to accepting kindness without suspicion is not straightforward. For many, a history of relational trauma and unmet emotional needs has led to the development of a character built around self-preservation in the face of neglect or indifference. This survival strategy often involves preemptive rejection and skepticism toward others' intentions, effectively shielding one from further emotional pain, but also from genuine connection. In such cases, encountering someone who exudes unguarded warmth and kindness can feel threatening. The subconscious fear is not of the person themselves, but of what they represent, a possibility of intimacy that we feel ill-equipped to manage without getting hurt. Our life's experiences teach us to approach relationships armed with caution. We swap vulnerability for a shield of cynicism and hopeful anticipation for a fortress of doubt, conditioning ourselves to dismiss kindness as either a weakness or a disguise. The famous saying, "Forewarned, forearmed," becomes a mantra for those who view emotional openness as a prelude to inevitable disappointment. Thus, when someone disrupts this worldview by being unapologetically kind and considerate, it challenges our fundamental beliefs about relationships and can induce a sense of psychological discomfort or even physical nausea. This discomfort is not about the person's niceness per se, but about the internal conflict it triggers within us. It confronts us with the need to dismantle our defensive barriers and consider a reality where not every kindness is a prelude to betrayal and not every warm smile hides a sinister motive. This scenario requires a seismic shift in perception, akin to relearning the language of emotional exchange from a place of openness rather than suspicion. So, how do we navigate this complex terrain when confronted with the ick of kindness? The first step is recognizing the source of our discomfort. Understanding that our reactions are less about the person in front of us and more about our past can empower us to approach new relationships with less baggage and more clarity. As we learn to lower our guard, we might find that embracing kindness does not always lead to pain, but can also lead to profound connections that enrich our lives. In light of this, I encourage you to reflect on your reactions to kindness in your relationships. The next time you find yourself recoiling from someone's warmth, ask yourself, Is this reaction truly about them, or is it about my past? By confronting these deeply ingrained fears, you stand to not only improve your relationships but also embark on perhaps the most significant adventure of your life, the belief in the possibility of genuine contentment and closeness. This journey, while challenging, can transform your understanding of what it means to connect with others and allow you to experience the joys of relationships unmarred by the shadows of past fears. The presence of a genuinely kind person can sometimes stir a profound anxiety within us. The fear of letting down our guard, the fear that we might have to trust again. This unease is not just about the person in front of us, but a reflection of our past experiences. It challenges the protective barriers we've built around our hearts to shield ourselves from the cold, isolating disappointments we've encountered. Why is the warmth of a kind soul so daunting? Often, it's because it presents a stark contrast to the emotional landscapes we've navigated throughout our lives. Many of us have developed resilience not through the presence of kindness, but through its absence. We've braced ourselves against the world, not with hope, but with skepticism. To encounter someone who is sincerely warm and unguarded can feel like a threat to the defenses we've meticulously crafted. It's not merely their kindness that unsettles us, but what it demands of us. To lower our shields and perhaps to trust again. Consider the story of Jake, a man who, after several failed relationships, had almost given up on finding love. He prided himself on his ability to remain detached and cynical until he met Sarah. Sarah was different. She was genuinely kind and open-hearted, which initially made Jake uncomfortable. He found himself searching for faults, labeling her kindness as naivety and her warmth as suffocating. However, as he spent more time with her, he realized that his discomfort was not about her, but about his own fears of vulnerability. Through Sarah, Jake learned that embracing kindness didn't mean he had to forsake his strength. Instead, it offered a path towards genuine connection, one that required him to confront and reassess his long-held defenses. The real challenge, then, isn't necessarily dealing with partners who might hurt us, but rather with those who offer us a chance at true contentment. We're quick to find humor in minor dating disasters, turning them into anecdotes laced with dark wit. But facing someone whose integrity and sweetness challenge our expectations of inevitable disappointment requires a different kind of courage. It's easy to dismiss love that fails, but to hold space for a love that might flourish requires not only strength, but also a profound bravery. So, why do we often find ourselves wanting to criticize those who show us unfiltered kindness? Is it easier to label someone as boring or too sentimental than to acknowledge our own fears of opening up? When someone steps through the door of our carefully guarded hearts asking us, metaphorically, for more ice, how do we respond? Do we acknowledge the warmth they bring, or do we retreat to the safety of our cynicism? This brings us to a crucial point of reflection. How do our responses to kindness shape our paths in love and life? Are we letting past pains dictate our future possibilities? The next time you find yourself recoiling from someone's kindness, take a moment to ask why. What are you protecting yourself from? And what might you gain if you chose to lower your defenses just a bit? Understanding and overcoming our aversion to kindness isn't just about improving our romantic relationships. It's about enriching our entire approach to life. It challenges us to unclench our suspicions, to relinquish our fears, and to embrace a life potentially filled with genuine warmth and connection. As we navigate these emotional landscapes, let's remember that the journey towards emotional contentment is not just about finding the right partner, but also about becoming the right partner to ourselves and others. This path, while fraught with challenges, holds the promise of leading us to the most rewarding adventure of our lives, discovering that love, when embraced with an open heart, can indeed work out. Thank you all for being here and watching our video today. We're eager to engage with you and learn from your experiences. How has the content we've shared today resonated with you or influenced your thoughts? Your input is incredibly valuable to us, It not only helps us improve our content but also enhances the learning experience for our entire community. Let's kick off the discussion in the comments section below. And don't go just yet. There's more insightful content on the way. We're just getting to the good part. Often it's not the kindness itself that's off-putting, but what it represents. The expectation of emotional engagement and vulnerability that comes with it. To quote the philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche, "He who has a why to live can bear almost any how." If we can grasp why kindness is challenging for us, we can learn how to embrace it, transforming our interactions and relationships. Many of us are conditioned to equate love with struggle and pain. From a young age, we learn to protect ourselves from disappointment and hurt through various defensive mechanisms. These might include skepticism, cynicism, or outright rejection of anything that seems too good to be true. When someone shows us unreserved kindness, it can feel disarming, even suspicious. We might ask ourselves, why are they so nice? What do they want? This skepticism is a survival tool, honed over years of emotional self-preservation. But what if we could see this reaction for what it truly is? A response not to the person in front of us, but to our past experiences. This insight could be the key to changing our response to kindness. When we feel the ick of kindness, it's often because we're anticipating the pain of being let down once again. We expect love to hurt, and when it doesn't, it feels unfamiliar and frightening. However, by understanding our histories, we can start to question these automatic reactions. We might ask ourselves, what is it about this person's kindness that makes me uncomfortable? By identifying and addressing these feelings, we can begin to dismantle the walls we've built around our hearts. Consider the possibilities that might open up if we allow ourselves to trust in the sincere goodwill of others. Could this be the beginning of a great adventure? Perhaps the greatest adventure of our lives? As the poet Rumi said, "Your task is not to seek for love, but merely to seek and find all the barriers within yourself that you have built against it." If we can break down these barriers, we may discover a world rich with potential for genuine connection and deep emotional satisfaction. So, why do we reject kindness? It's not because we are inherently distrustful or cold, but because our experiences have taught us to be cautious. We are not rejecting the person. We are protecting ourselves from past pains that their kindness inadvertently brings to the surface. But by doing this, we might be denying ourselves the very thing we crave the most: real closeness and contentment. The challenge, then, is to confront our own fears and give ourselves permission to believe in the goodness of others. It involves recognizing that our defensiveness is a response to past trauma, not a true reflection of the present situation. This realization can be incredibly freeing. It allows us to approach relationships with a new openness, ready to experience the joys of love without the expectation of pain. How, then, can we apply this understanding the next time we encounter someone whose kindness makes us uneasy? Can we pause, reflect, and choose to respond differently? Perhaps embracing the opportunity to experience love as it should be, not as we fear it might be. This, dear listeners, is not just a challenge but an invitation to embark on the most rewarding journey towards emotional freedom and fulfillment. 5 types of kindness you should avoid. Intelligence is a gift, kindness is a choice. This saying reminds us to be selectively kind to people in various situations. Here are 5 types of kindness you should avoid. 1. Taking on tasks that are beyond your capacity. In the labyrinth of modern life, the noble quest to extend kindness can sometimes lead us down a precarious path. It's crucial to discern when our generosity might do more harm than good, particularly in situations where our desire to help surpasses our actual capabilities. This concept isn't new. As the Stoic philosopher Epictetus once remarked, "Know first who you are, and then adorn yourself accordingly." He suggests that understanding our own limits is not just wise but necessary. consider the first type of kindness to avoid: taking on tasks that are beyond your capacity. While the intentions behind such actions are often pure, the practical consequences can veer unexpectedly towards the negative. You may be tempted to take on more than you can handle, perhaps to prove your worth or to strengthen a bond. However, if these tasks are not suited to your skills, they can lead to stress, burnout, and even resentment both for you and those you aim to assist. Imagine a scenario where, in your eagerness to help, you volunteer for a project that is out of your depth. The effort you put in might go unrecognized, or, worse, if the outcome is suboptimal, it could erode trust rather than build it. Here, the wisdom of Benjamin Franklin comes to mind. An ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. By recognizing your limits and sometimes saying no, you not only preserve your own resources, but also respect the needs of others, allowing them to find assistance that is truly fitting. The repercussions of misguided kindness are twofold. In one instance, your dedication might be taken for granted, leading to a lack of appreciation for your sacrifice. In another, your insufficient expertise might result in poor outcomes, damaging the very relationships you hope to strengthen. This dichotomy highlights the importance of self-awareness and the courage to set boundaries, a reflection of maturity and respect for both oneself and others. Remember that the essence of Stoicism is not about withholding help, but about offering it wisely and judiciously. As we navigate through the complexities of life, we must weave our actions with threads of wisdom, ensuring that our kindness is both effective and genuine. Let this understanding guide you as you decide when to step forward and when to gracefully step back, thus fostering relationships that are both supportive and sustainable. This approach will not only enhance your well-being, but also empower those around you to thrive in their own capacities. 2. Assisting in tasks that harm others. When you extend a hand to help someone, it's important to consider the implications of your actions. Picture this: you're approached by a colleague who seeks your assistance in sabotaging another coworker's project. Although they might frame this as a small, harmless favor, it's essential to recognize the underlying intent. By agreeing to help, you may think you're being kind and supportive to one person, but the reality is, your actions could cause significant harm to another. This kind of kindness, helping someone at the expense of others, is not true kindness. It's complicity in a harmful act. Now let's delve into a modern scenario that's all too common in the workplace. Imagine Sarah, a diligent employee who often stays late to ensure her projects are flawless. One evening, her colleague Mark, who feels threatened by her competence, asks another coworker, Lucy, to help him tamper with Sarah's presentation to jeopardize her upcoming review. Lucy, thinking she's just aiding a friend in a simple prank, agrees. However, the result is not just a harmless joke. It severely damages Sarah's reputation and causes her undue stress. This situation brings to light the critical importance of assessing the moral implications of our so-called kind gestures. Could Lucy have foreseen the consequences? Perhaps not entirely, but a moment of reflection on the ethics of her choice could have prevented harm. How often do we pause to consider the full impact of our actions when someone asks for help? Engaging in acts that hurt others, even indirectly, reflects poorly on our character and can have ripple effects that we might not immediately foresee. True kindness involves empathy and consideration for everyone affected by our actions. In wrapping up, it's vital to internalize the lesson that not all help is helpful. Kindness should uplift and not be used as a tool for undermining others. The next time you're asked to lend a hand, ask yourself, is this act of kindness going to bring joy and benefit to all involved, or could it possibly spread pain and resentment? Let this reflection guide you to make choices that align with genuine kindness and integrity. What will you choose to do when faced with a similar situation? 3. Assisting in making important decisions. Have you ever found yourself tempted to step in and help someone make a big decision? It's a natural impulse, especially when we care deeply about them. However, As we explore the nuanced landscape of kindness, it's crucial to recognize that not all acts of kindness are beneficial. Consider the profound truth in this famous saying by Anne Frank: "No one has ever become poor by giving." This sentiment beautifully captures the essence of generosity, but when it comes to making decisions, the stakes are different. Imagine a friend stands before a significant life choice, perhaps about a career move or a long-term relationship. They turn to you, seeking guidance. It's flattering, isn't it? To be trusted with such weighty matters. Yet, here lies a hidden type of kindness you might want to avoid: assisting in making important decisions. While it might seem helpful to share your wisdom, remember this critical aspect. Everyone's life journey is unique, and the path one should choose is a deeply personal decision. When we make decisions for others, even with the best intentions, we risk imposing our own limitations and biases on them. Our experiences, while valuable, are not universal. The consequences of such decisions can vary drastically. What if, influenced by your advice, they choose a path that leads to regret? You might unintentionally become the cause of their greatest regret. Reflect on this. The road to hell is paved with good intentions. How often might our well-meaning actions lead others away from their true desires? So, what should you do when someone asks for help with a decision? Maybe, instead of giving direct advice, ask them thoughtful questions that guide them to their own conclusions. This approach not only empowers them, but also honors their autonomy. Consider asking, what outcome do you hope to see, and why do you think this choice might lead you there? Such open-ended questions encourage reflection and can provide clarity without overstepping boundaries. In conclusion, while our instincts might urge us to help, it's important to practice restraint and consider the long-term impact of our actions on others' lives. Can you think of a time when you had to make a decision entirely on your own? How did that autonomy make you feel? And what did you learn from it? Let's continue this conversation and delve deeper into understanding when to step back and let others lead their own way. Remember, sometimes the kindest thing you can do is to simply be there, offering support from the sidelines. 4. Financial assistance. The essence of kindness is universally acclaimed as a virtue, yet there exists a shadowy aspect where it can lead unsuspecting individuals into the clutches of deceit. This darker facet reveals itself prominently in financial transactions among acquaintances, where good intentions often pave the way to exploitation. Take, for instance, the story of two women who shared an apartment. They developed a close bond over time, which seemed to foster mutual trust. One day, one of the roommates approached the other for financial help, citing a family health crisis that required significant funds. Moved by compassion and trust, the other roommate did not just dip into her savings, but also took on debt to assist her friend. This story, however, took an unexpected turn when the helpful roommate returned one day to an empty apartment. Her friend vanished without a trace. The police later confirmed her worst fears. It was a scam. This tale serves as a grim reminder that even those closest to us can have ulterior motives. The philosopher Seneca once advised, "Time discovers truth," suggesting that patience and observation are prudent before committing one's trust and resources. In modern life, this advice is particularly relevant. Financial scams often prey on the compassionate impulses of the kind-hearted, exploiting their trust to weave believable narratives that promise urgency and require secrecy. Before you extend financial help, especially when it involves substantial amounts, consider this. Are you enabling or empowering? The distinction lies in whether your aid fosters dependency or supports independence. Additionally, remember the timeless warning. Do not intend to harm others, but be wary of them. It's crucial to balance your benevolence with wisdom, ensuring that your kindness is both a gift and a shield. As you navigate through relationships and opportunities to help, let your actions be guided not only by a generous heart, but also by a discerning mind. In doing so, you protect not only your assets, but also the integrity of your kindness. 5. Helping those who are never satisfied. Helping those who are never satisfied can be a particularly tricky aspect of kindness. It's like giving someone a small bag of rice and being hailed as a benefactor, but if you extend that generosity to a whole sack sometimes, they might forget that it was ever a form of help. There's a pattern you may have observed. The more you give, the more people expect. Habitual assistance can lead people to expect unconditional support, viewing it more as an entitlement rather than a gesture of goodwill. When this expectation sets in, appreciation often diminishes. If a day comes when you're unable to lend that hand, these same individuals might turn against you, driven by the feeling that you somehow owe them. Remember this: you can never wake someone who is pretending to sleep, nor can you satisfy someone who is greedy. Let me share with you a story that might resonate with your experiences today. Imagine Sarah, who regularly helped her neighbor Tom with groceries and household chores as he was unemployed. Initially, Tom was immensely grateful, but over time, he began to ask for more help, often assuming Sarah would always be available. One weekend, Sarah had to decline because she was helping her own family move. Tom's reaction was surprisingly harsh. He accused her of abandoning him when he needed her most. This incident serves as a modern-day reflection of the risks of extending kindness without boundaries. Now think about this. Have you ever found yourself in a situation where your kindness was taken for granted? How did you handle it? These reflections are crucial because they guide us to understand that kindness must be balanced with wisdom. To navigate such challenging waters, it's important to set boundaries and communicate clearly from the start what you are willing to offer and for how long. This does not make you less kind. It makes your kindness more sustainable and prevents misunderstandings. Moreover, it teaches people to value and appreciate the help they receive, rather than see it as an endless entitlement. In conclusion, while it's noble to assist others, remember the importance of helping wisely. Your acts of kindness should not lead to dependency but should empower others to eventually take charge of their situations. This way, the true value of your generosity is realized and both you and those you help can maintain mutual respect and gratitude. To achieve victory, one must sometimes learn to be as ruthless as a wolf. There are aspects of life that may seem counterintuitive, yet they are the bare essence of human nature. It is often said, gentle people are easily bullied, and gentle horses are easily ridden. Sometimes, the more you yield, the more others will push forward. The more you retreat, the more ruthless others become, seeking to crush and eliminate you. The more you forgive, the more reckless others become, showing no respect whatsoever. The more tender-hearted you are, the more others become boundlessly greedy. Therefore, as we mature, we must learn to be more ruthless. If you refrain from refusing tasks beyond your capabilities for fear of offending others, you harm yourself. If you don't stand up against injustices, you won't be respected. Those around you may see your kindness as weakness, treating your helpful actions as trivial expectations. They fail to appreciate the effort and goodwill of others. For example, if you kindly fetch water for everyone a few times, they may start to expect this as your duty, casually assigning you as an errand runner without a second thought. This is the reality, where gentle individuals are often the first to be oppressed. Therefore, never be afraid to refuse others. If you do not wish to help, honestly explain your reasons. There's no need to reluctantly agree. By being ruthless with ourselves and those around us, we can conquer the raw nature of humanity. The sooner you realize this, the more time you have to build a resilient spirit. Otherwise, life's experiences and setbacks will personally teach you unforgettable lessons about the value of kindness, which should be reserved for those who truly deserve it. There are selfish, greedy individuals who do not understand this value and should not possess it. Thomas Fuller, an English clergyman and historian, famously said, "Men are more prone to revenge injuries than to requite kindness," meaning people are more likely to seek revenge for harm done than to repay kindness. Will the kindness you offer surely be reciprocated, or might it be doubted and forgotten? Before considering repayment, calmly ensure that your actions do not unintentionally cause negative effects, as misguided kindness can be as harmful as evil. A good heart must be paired with a clear mind to place emotions appropriately. Otherwise, your well-intentioned actions might inadvertently harm the recipient. When conducting charitable acts, first ensure the recipient's legitimacy to avoid being deceived or making regrettable mistakes. Especially when aiding someone in difficult circumstances, consider helping them escape poverty rather than merely providing material assistance. Give them the tools and teach them to fish, rather than just giving them the fish so they can sustain themselves. As Ralph Waldo Emerson, a famous American author, poet, and philosopher, said, "Your goodness needs a bit of sharpness, otherwise it is as round as zero." The kinder a person is, the higher their threshold in social interactions must be. This way, they avoid being overly indulgent with others and can protect themselves. If you have become accustomed to suffering, remaining silent, feeling resentful, and always accommodating others, then you will forget that you can have an attitude, a perspective, capabilities, and live the life you desire. You are easily manipulated because you have confused comfort with unprincipled tolerance, thus not knowing how to refuse. There are many things within your capability that you can help with. Beyond your capability, you must decisively refuse. Do not regret helping those in need. For those undeserving, spare no pity. By expressing genuine thoughts, not being dependent or people-pleasing, we can take our lives back into our own hands. I've heard about the concept of an energy vampire. If someone leaves you feeling drained and emotionally depleted every time they come near you, that person is an energy vampire, sapping your energy. Those who have too much idle time are never short of troubles. If you are around such people for a long time when bad things happen to them, all sorts of negative energies will also be transmitted to you. After graduating from college, American writer George Jane worked as an editor for the New York Herald. At that time, he was renting an apartment with another colleague. After work, this colleague would either go to a bar or talk with George to complain. The conversations were often filled with resentment. He was dissatisfied because his parents held low status and couldn't help him in his career. He complained that his boss didn't value him and that his salary was too low to cover living expenses. Initially, George, meaning well, explained things to him and advised him to think more broadly about everything. He also recommended spending more time improving his skills, as enhancing his abilities would surely improve his life. But as time went by, George began to feel more negative. He stopped working hard and started hanging out with his colleague at the bar after work. Until that Christmas, when he went home to visit his family, he saw his father working hard every day to support the family. Thinking about how he had been drunkenly wasting his days, he suddenly felt sad. He used to love life, but now he was living in a haze. At that moment, he realized he had unwittingly absorbed the negative energy from his terrible colleague. Back in New York, the first thing George did was move out of that apartment. There's a saying, "Idle hands are the devil's workshop." Idle people with nothing to do generate all sorts of negative emotions and easily fall into depravity. If you help them out of kindness, you are pulling negative energy toward yourself. Over time, their lack of initiative will become yours, and their habit of complaining when things don't go their way will also become yours. Those who stare into the abyss will be swallowed by it. Chinese writer Zhu Guobin doesn't care about what's happening outside his door. He focuses all year round on writing behind that closed door. The principle he lives by is, pay no attention to idle people and pointless activities. Minimize interactions with lazy people. Lessen the burden of their negative emotions. Lessen interactions with lazy people Spend more time on your own development. Kindness should have its limits. When you encounter someone who doesn't want to progress but just demands everything, it's time to retract your kindness. Don't be too kind. Put your kindness in the right place at the right time. The art of letting go and living isn't about being indifferent or cold to everything around you. The art lies in caring about what truly matters and is necessary. Don't be too good of a person. You can refuse things you don't want to do, don't force yourself to do what you can't, and ignore words you don't like. Your life is not meant to please others but to treat yourself well. In life, don't be too kind nor too generous because not everyone appreciates your sincerity. Sometimes, don't be too kind nor too generous. The sincere intentions from your heart are not always deserved by everyone. Know to choose so you don't regret what you've given away. You might need to reconsider giving to those who truly deserve it more. As a person, don't be too nice. Not knowing anger or irritation, as time goes by, no one will fear you, everyone will look down on you, even children will bully you. Don't be too easygoing, giving whatever anyone wants or believing whatever anyone says. In the long run, no one will care about your feelings, always wanting you to meet their demands. We only live once, no one is easy, so be a bit difficult to please. Character has its flaws, goodness has its limits. Be discerning about whom you are generous to, and give your heart to the right person. Be just good enough. But if you're too good, save that goodness for your parents. Being good to someone undeserving is as bad as harming yourself. Don't let your kindness be exploited. Because nowadays society fundamentally operates on exploiting each other. If your house is on a busy street, your father has a high-ranking job and you wear brand-name shoes and clothes, I'll associate with you. If not, sorry. I'm closing my door. Kindness is sometimes crushed. Good people are sometimes crushed. Society's complex. Sometimes being too good is also hated and seen as fake. A good horse will be ridden by others. A good person will be betrayed by others. Being virtuous isn't bad, but being overly virtuous is a sickness. When you care too much about others, they will make things 10,000 times harder for you. And if you keep giving in to others, they will take advantage and hurt you. Don't always think on behalf of others. Never live too well in life, nor be overly enthusiastic in helping unconditionally. Because there are those who, accustomed to receiving, forget to say thank you. You can't please everyone all the time. You can't live according to everyone's wishes, so don't burn yourself out trying to do so. Just make sure at least one of those pleased is yourself. In life, don't live too well. Instead of trying to please everyone else's opinions about you, fix what you think isn't truly good about yourself. And that decision is yours, not anyone else's, as long as it's truly right. In this life, we must remember that we wholeheartedly treat people well, always worry and want the best for them. But it's not certain they will treat us sincerely or just for their benefit. When times get tough, will they help us? Don't live to please others. Live right by yourself, and do no harm to anyone. Because in this life, even saints are hated, let alone ordinary people. Live for yourself, for your passions and interests. That's the most meaningful thing we should strive to do. Youth is limited. Don't spend it worrying about others and lose the most beautiful time of your life. Life is short. Just let go and live. Thanks for watching our exploration into why nice people can sometimes repel us.